Today we're going to be talking about dopamine and how you can reset your dopamine levels. This is one chemical every man is trying to control, because if you fall into that dopamine trap, you can end up over consuming porn, food, everything which is bad for you, causing you to feel negative and crap all day. So many people think dopamine is bad, but the right levels of dopamine will help you to take action. That's why today I'm going to help you to reset your dopamine levels so you can start achieving everything that you want. The first thing you need to do is practice being bored. When I first came across this, I was like, what the hell? Actually spend time doing nothing, just sitting there. How can this be productive? But you've got to think about it. When was the last time you spent any time just doing nothing? We are constantly on our phone. Whether we're watching TV, we've got our phone in our hands. Whether we're going to the toilet, we take our phones with us. Whether we're just sitting on the sofa chilling, we're on our phones. When we're eating, we're constantly on our phones. By constantly having that stimulation, our dopamine levels have gone whack. So when we need to sit down, concentrate and work on those important things, we find it hard. When we go to the gym, we find it boring. When we sit in the cold plunge, we're unable to do it. All because our dopamine levels are all messed up. That's why the first thing you've got to do is practice being bored. I used to be really bad at this. When I used to go to the toilet, I used to search for my phone. Some days I would be so desperate, but I wouldn't go into the toilet without my phone. It became so normal having my phone with me all the time. It's so crazy when I look back at my habits. I was constantly on my phone. My brain was constantly being stimulated. Therefore, my dopamine levels were up, down all the time. This made it really hard for me to focus and really work on the really important things in my life, like my business. I struggled to sit down and work for more than 20 minutes. But once I practiced being bored, everything changed. I'm able to focus, I'm able to concentrate, but also I'm able to work for 4 hours in the morning. Before, that seemed impossible, but by just practicing being bored, it changed everything. That's why I practice this first thing in the morning. As soon as my alarm goes off, I turn off my phone, I get out of my bed, I make my bed, I go to the bathroom, wash my face, use the toilet, then I head outside. I spend 15 minutes doing nothing, just letting my mind wander and being bored. By starting the day like that, my day is so much better. By taking the sunlight into my eyes, that helps to reset my dopamine levels, but also helps to raise it slowly. By the end of the 15 minutes, I'm craving for any kind of stimulation. And by jumping straight onto my laptop and working, I'm able to work for longer periods of time, but also I'm able to be creative and get the answers that I want. If you end up spending 15 minutes doing nothing and then jumping on your phone, it will ruin your dopamine levels. But if you sit there for 15 minutes, then jump straight into those important tasks, they will become so much easier. That's why every morning you should get out of your bed and just sit there and do nothing. 15 to 20 minutes a day will change your life. It'll help you to focus, it'll help to reset your dopamine levels, it will help you to concentrate on those important things. Practicing being bored has been one of the best things I've done. The next thing you need to do is make your breaks super boring. Whether you're working on your business, creating content, or you're in the gym. Whenever you take a break from those important tasks, you've got to make your breaks more boring than the task you're doing. If you jump straight onto your phone when you take a break and you start swiping, those dopamine hits are going to take over, and getting back into work is going to be 10 times harder. That's why whenever I take a break every 45 minutes, I either go sit outside, I go for a walk, or I do some stretchings. And even on some days when I'm extremely tired, I take a 15-minute nap. After midday, I don't do that. But let's say I woke up at 6 a.m. I've worked for 2.5 hours. My brain's a bit frazzled. I feel a bit drained. I'll just take a quick 15-minute nap, and that just helps to reset my dopamine levels. When you are taking a break from those hard tasks, you've got to just make them as boring as possible. So when you jump back into work, it seems exciting. But if you choose to text friends, check your emails, check something online, it will ruin your dopamine levels. So when you take breaks, make them as boring as possible. And if you do this, you will be able to work for longer, you will be able to focus for longer, but also you'll start to enjoy your work a little bit more. The next thing that helps me to control my dopamine levels in the morning is fasting. I don't eat anything, so my brain can just focus on those important tasks. For the first 2 hours, I don't have anything. Sometimes I go even 3 hours. But by not eating first thing in the morning, I'm allowing my brain to concentrate on those important tasks. Personally, when I get up in the morning and if I have a large meal, I find it hard to concentrate. My stomach is trying to digest that food instead of focusing on the important tasks. That's why fasting in the morning can also help you to be more productive, but also help you to maintain those dopamine levels. When I choose to break that fast in the morning, I make sure I have 0 carb, whether that's a protein shake or some scrambled eggs and tomato. I keep my meals very simple because I don't want to spike my sugar levels. I don't want to give any instant sugar rushes to my brain. So I maintain a high protein diet for the first part of the day. This helps me to concentrate, it stops me from feeling tired, but also it's just better for me. Therefore, in the morning, just be a little bit more conscious of what you're consuming and make sure you're consuming the right things that are helping you to work. Some people need breakfast in the morning, and if you're one of those people, just make sure you're consuming the right things. The final thing I'm going to talk about is taking advantage of all those small moments you have to yourself. Whether you're standing in the queue, using the toilet, you're going to work in the morning, take advantage of all these moments to reset your dopamine levels. If you're in a car driving to work, go in silence. If you're sitting on the train, just sit there. Don't do anything. Just take in the environment. When you're taking that break in between sets, use that time to breathe and think about the exercise, to motivate yourself, to push yourself even harder. Because if you end up scrolling on your phone, when it comes to that next set, you won't have the oomph to get the maximum results. But if you decide to use that 2 minutes to breathe, to focus, to lock in and get in the zone, you will even get better results in the gym. Once you reach the right dopamine levels, you will be amazed how good you feel, but also how you have the ability to do those hard things. So take the steps today to achieving the right dopamine levels so you can lock in, change your life, and achieve everything that you want.